I'd like to call this meeting to order. Any declarations of interest? Seeing none, adoption of the agenda. I need a motion to add one item to the closed meeting on the mayor's verbal report regarding a memorandum of understanding. Can I get a mover? I got Councillor DeRose, a seconder. Councillor Sentence. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Adoption of the minutes. Council meeting minutes of August 11th, 2020. I've got a mover, Councillor Sentence, and a seconder, Councillor Kenny, that the meeting minutes of August 11th, 2020 be hereby adopted. Is there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Council meeting minutes of August 26, 2020. I have a mover, Councillor DeRose, seconder, Councillor Decker, that the council meeting minutes of August 26, 2020 be hereby adopted. Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Mayor's report. Where did I put? Here we go. Our CAO, Manoj Dilwaria, and I participated in the virtual AMO conference that was held online this year due to COVID-19 restrictions. Between the City of Thorold and the region, we were involved in 4 delegations with the following ministries: Municipal Affairs and Housing, Infrastructure, Finance, Heritage, Sport, Tourism, and Culture Industries. As previously announced and communicated, the City of Thorold received the following funding from the province as part of the agreement reached between the provincial and federal governments to cover costs related to the COVID-19 pandemic. We received $519,000, or we will be receiving $519,800 municipal funding Phase 1 under the Safe Restart Agreement, and $248,869 for Phase 1 transit funding. The total Phase 1 funding we'll receive is $768,669. On Monday, August 24th, we held our first virtual town and gown meeting to prepare for the upcoming Brock University and Niagara College fall semester. It was well attended and a very productive meeting. On Tuesday, August 25th, I threw out the first pitch in our Thorold Athletics minor baseball under-9 game at Sullivan Park. This was a very well-organized event following all the COVID-19 protocols. Kudos to Chris Green, coaching staffs, volunteers, and parents' families who were watched from outside the park fences. So the parents and families weren't allowed in the park. They watched from outside and had lawn chairs all around the park on the outside. It was very interesting. On Thursday, August 27th, Manoj and I met virtually with representatives from Walker Industries to receive an update and discuss any issues or concerns. Also on that Thursday, we met virtually again with Brock University President Gervon Farron, new Provost and Vice President of Academics Lynn Wells, and Executive Director, Government and Community Relations Megan Rusnell. We discussed the upcoming fall semester, what it will look like, challenges due to COVID-19, off and on-campus housing expectations, preparation for issues that they may encounter, and partnerships opportunities moving forward. We will continue to have regular meetings to address any issues and concerns that may arise. On Sunday, September 6th, the Thorold Elite Track Club will be holding a bottle drive fundraiser from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Drop-off locations will be posted on their Facebook and Instagram pages, so you should see that come up very shortly. Congratulations to this club on the excellent results achieved by their athletes at a track and field meet held this past Sunday at the Niagara Olympic Club. It was the first organized local event since the pandemic hit in March, and followed all the COVID-19 protocols. A huge congratulations to Thorold own Connor Timmins, who appeared in his first NHL playoff game last evening. Connor is defenseman with the Colorado Avalanche, and they beat the Dallas Stars 6-3 in that game to close the series to 3-2, and we look forward to seeing Connor many times in the future. An important notice that come out today: the Ministry of Transportation has advised us that this evening, September 1st at 6 p.m., so that's already happened, the Thorold Tunnel will be closed for emergency lighting repairs. The tunnel will reopen on Wednesday, September 3rd in the morning, hopefully by 6 a.m. Detours will be in place, and they will be the same as previous closures. All levels of education, elementary, secondary, and post-secondary, start up again next week, and it is more important than ever to follow the established safety protocols. We must stay focused and continue to work together. And that's the end of my mayor's report. And now we'll move on to public meeting. In accordance with Section 239 of the Municipal Act, a meeting, no, that's the wrong one. That's for the close. Too much paperwork here. Okay, virtual public meeting. Proposed official plan and zoning bylaw amendments, 2350 Gaynor Street, D09-02-2020. D14-07-2020. Opening remarks and purpose of meeting. This public meeting is being held pursuant to the provisions of Sections 17, 22, and 34 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, CP 13 as amended. The applicant proposes to amend the city's official plan by redesignating the portion of the subject property that currently is designated general industrial and greenfield overlay to site-specific policy area. The applicant also proposes to amend zoning bylaw 2140, bracket 97, by rezoning the area of the subject property that is currently zoned R1A-9 to a site-specific R1A zone. Zoning bylaws 60-2019, which is currently under appeal, would also be amended under zoning bylaw 60-2019. The property is proposed to be rezoned from R1A to a site-specific R1A zone. The amendments would permit a hockey training facility, associated office and video review areas within an existing accessory building on the property. City planning staff will present information on the application this evening. Council will receive and consider all comments received at the public meeting. No decision on this application is being made this evening. Any of the following, no later than 20 days after giving notice, may appeal the decision by filing with the city the notice of appeal that must set out the reasons for the appeal, accompanied by the tribunal's fee. The applicant, a person or public body who before the bylaw was passed made oral submissions at the public meeting or written submissions to council, or the minister. If a person or public body did not make oral submission at the public meeting or provide written submissions to council before the bylaw was passed, the tribunal will determine if there are any reasonable grounds to add the person or public body as a party. So the public meeting, 2350 Gaynor Street. Up first, presentation from city staff. Paul Clausen, intermediate planner, and Paul, are you with us?
I am. Can you hear me, Mr. Mayor?
Barely.
Oh, sorry about that. How about now? Better?
It's better, but wait, we'll see if we can get some more.
Okay.
Try that again.
Hello.
That's better. Much better. Okay. Go ahead, Paul.
Great. Okay, so I'm going to attempt to share my screen. It should be up on the screen right now. Just stop me if there's any issues with that, but I'll begin my presentation. So good evening, everybody, council, members of the public. My name is Paul Clausen. I'm an intermediate planner at the City of Thorold, and I'll be presenting the official plan and zoning bylaw amendments that were received by the city for the property known as 2350 Gaynor Street. So the location of the property is in the community of Allenburg. It's located at the intersection of Henderson Street and Gaynor Street, and is surrounded by a mix of residential and vacant land used for agricultural uses and wooded areas. And there's also a CN rail corridor to the north and west of the site. The residential areas surrounding the site are low density, and the existing single detached dwelling on the property would remain as part of this application. The proposal, which is now summarized on the screen, is really confined to the existing accessory building. The proposed hockey training facility, including office and video review areas, would be located in an existing accessory building on the property. And parking for the proposal would be accommodated in the existing paved driveway area. The only external element besides parking is the proposed chiller for the ice rink area within the existing building, which is shown on the north side of the building. As I mentioned earlier, the existing single detached dwelling is proposed to remain. Under the city's official plan, the property is designated, a portion of it's designated urban living area, and that's the western portion, while the eastern portion of the property at the back, where the existing accessory building is located, is designated general industrial. The entire property is also designated greenfield overlay in the official plan. Under the current zoning bylaw, which is zoning bylaw 214097, the property is split zoned. The southern portion is zoned R1A-9, and that's a residential first density zone, while the northern portion is designated D, or development. Under the pending zoning bylaw 60/2019, the property would be zoned R1A, which is a single detached residential zone. This bylaw is actually under appeal right now, and it's not in effect, but the applications before us today would require amending this bylaw as well. So just some more details about the applications. There's an official plan amendment application and zoning bylaw amendment application, which are both necessary to accommodate this proposal. The official plan would be redesignated from the general industrial designation to a site-specific policy area, which would allow the proposed use. The same thing under the zoning bylaw. Both the existing and pending zoning bylaws would need to be rezoned to accommodate this use, and they would both be rezoned. Under both bylaws, the property would be rezoned to a site-specific R1A residential zone. Some more site-specific provisions are being requested or are required further to staff's review of the materials that were submitted. So under zoning bylaw 214097, which is the current one, there's a requirement for a reduced two-way driveway access width along the south side of the building. An exemption from lighting of parking areas would be required, and further relief from the bylaw would be required to allow an accessory building to allow gain or profit to result from an accessory building. Under the new bylaw, the same width reduction is requested, as well as exemptions from loading space, and I wrote loading space twice on there. The second point should be from bicycle parking requirements. So the application has been circulated to external agencies and internal departments at the city. Comments from Several utility and infrastructure providers have been received. More comments are anticipated, and all will be included in staff's future recommendation report on these applications. Several comments were received from members of the public as well, including the main issues that were raised include traffic and parking issues, safety issues, noise and disruption from the proposed commercial use, concerns about future development occurring on the property beyond this proposal in front of us, the impacts to the character of the area, hours of operation of the use, privacy, and property values. So all of the comments received before council makes their decision will be included in staff's future recommendation report, which will come to council at a subsequent meeting date. So that concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions for Paul? I have Councillor DeRose. Go ahead, Councillor DeRose.
For you, Mr. Mayor. Great presentation, Paul. Thank you. Paul, this will be a full-fledged business, I'm assuming?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we would consider it a commercial use. The residential aspect of the property is still going to continue, or it's proposed to continue. The house would remain, and the business would operate in the accessory building.
Paul, do you know how many people they might employ when construction and everything's completed?
I don't know how many people they would employ, but I know from the applicant's letter, and perhaps they could speak to this tonight as well. 12 students, I guess, or 12 hockey players would be using the facility at the same time, but I'm not sure about the number of people employed.
Thank you.
Councillor Sentence.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I do have just a concern about traffic and everything coming in there. Maybe this is a question for appropriate staff member. As far as our sidewalks and connecting everything, do we have a plan on those streets to have sidewalks going out there for people to walk on and take away maybe the ability for someone to get hit or take that away?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm not sure about the plan for sidewalks in the area, and that's something I can certainly discuss with our engineering division. We will get some comments from them on this application still, and I'll specifically note the traffic concern when we're discussing it with them.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Neal.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Just a question on future development and putting another commercial building on that particular property. What are the steps for the proponent to do that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the applications in front of us today are really only for the proposed use to be located within that existing building. So if any new buildings or commercial development was proposed on that property, a new application process and public process would be required, and it would likely be along the same lines of an official plan and zoning bylaw amendment.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions? Seeing none, Paul, thank you for your presentation. And now we'll go to public participation. Now at this time, is there anyone online who wishes to speak on the applications received? Please indicate to the clerk your desire to speak, and then we have a list, correct? What about the they're on the list? Okay. And then you'll provide your name and address for the public record. So up first, I think I have Rocky Vaca. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yes, you are, Your Worship. Can you hear me?
Yes, and if you will provide your name and address again, and your representation on this particular matter.
Thank you, Worship. Good evening, and good evening, members of council, ladies and gentlemen. I appear as the lawyer for the applicant, Mr. and Mrs. Egret. I'm a partner at Sullivan Manny. Office address is 4781 Portage Road, Niagara Falls.
Go ahead, Rocky.
Thank you. So I'd first like to begin by expressing our appreciation to your planning department, in particular Denise Landry and Mr. Glasson, for their assistance in bringing this matter before you as expeditiously as possible. It's been very much appreciated by myself and my clients. In fact, my clients became the owner of this property approximately 3 hours ago. So the timing is very, very good. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I just wanted to address our position, and our position is that the application represents good land use planning on the following grounds. We believe it is compatible with the existing uses in this rural area of the city. All improvements are interior only to the existing accessory building, with the only visible addition being the chilling equipment for the rink, which has been positioned as far away as possible from the abutting neighbors. Thirdly, the use is intended to be limited to 12 athletes at one time. And you will note from Mr. Glasson's presentation that 15 parking spaces have been provided for this use. Fourthly, the use adds a recreational amenity to the city, most importantly, a private one, not one that is going to have to be funded and subsidized by the city. Fifth, the use is unique in the province and will elevate Thorold standing as a prominent hockey center in the province of Ontario. Six, the use promotes physical training in smaller groups, which may be the new normal for some time for most sports, including hockey, during these challenging times. Lastly, the use promotes the concept of live, work, and play, which is a prominent theme in provincial planning documents. Now, to address some of the comments that I've heard, there was a question, I believe, or a comment from a neighbor dealing with hours of operation. I can advise that the intention is that the use would be operated after school, Monday to Friday. So we're talking 3:30 to no later than 8 o'clock. And primarily prime time would be the hours after school until supper time. That would be Monday to Friday use. The intention is not to use the facilities on Saturdays and Sundays, because that is when most of these athletes are playing games with their regular travel teams. So that is the hours of operation. In effect, if I were to describe this, it's fair to say it is a commercial use. I think it's more of a home occupation use. I think that's a fair description of the use. You may not be aware of this, but this building has been used by the previous owners, who were also clients of mine, as a workshop. And they also had an archery training center in the building. And my understanding, speaking directly with the previous owners, is they would have as many as 60 children there at one time. They never charged. It was a service they provided. So I would suggest to you that this is a substantial decrease in issues such as traffic, etc., because previously there was many as 60 children doing archery training in that building. In terms of employees, I'll let Mr. Agret answer that question. I believe he's on the line. But once again, this is primarily a home occupation type of commercial use. It's not intended to be a traditional commercial use operating 9 to 5 or 9 to 9 every day with secretaries, employees, et cetera, et cetera. Michael, if you want to step in and fill in any blanks, if you don't mind.
Thank you so much, Rocky. Michael Agret here. I am located at 2350 Gaynor in Ellenburg. I just moved in today, and I'm still cleaning the house here in Niagara Falls. To touch on what Rocky said, my profession is I'm in the healthcare field. This made an attraction to be on the same property to maintain a facility and service so that I didn't have to come home from work and drive to the many rinks in the region. With the new norm, this is going on in all the arenas now. small group training. It's normal. The previous owners instructed that for years they would have literally cars lined up on the street for their archery, parked in the droves, walking and up and down the street. So they were wonderful to deal with. Our program with employees, we have not one employee. What we do though is we subcontract Brock University students, Niagara Ice Dog interns. We have about what I call a subcontracted staff on our website, about 10 people, mostly students and or teachers that come on and use, and then they go home and we remunerate them personally. We rent the ice from Thorold right now. We've partnered with the Junior Bees. We have NCAA to NHL clients. We just think this would have been great to be on our property so we could maintain it and not have the overhead to have someone watch the ice, clean the gym, that will be my wife and I as a home occupation on top of my medical sales.
Thank you, Michael. So now, do we have any questions for Michael or Rocky? I got Councillor Kenny. Go ahead.
Yes, I just got a couple of questions. Would these chillers be running 12 months a year?
Yes, they will be.
Okay, to be honest, don't know a whole lot of, I know the chillers at the arena are very loud, and I would like that aspect looked at, because if they're as loud as the ones at the arena and these are going to be outside, I might have a problem with that. How about bathrooms and change rooms? Are you putting those in?
Councillor Kenny, Michael Legret here. Number one, we did submit the noise from the manufacturer. There's over 70 of these chillers being put in Ontario homes as we speak. These are not the chillers like the arenas. These are much smaller, like an air conditioner. The arena that's going in there is only 35 by 80. A normal arena is 80 by 200. Last but not least, I think the roosters in my neighborhood are louder than these, I'm told. They're not much louder than an air conditioner in a big home. They've been put on the north side. And I think, what was your last question? Change rooms are already there, and washroom is already there from the previous owner.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Does anyone else have questions for either one of the presenters? Seeing none, I want to thank you, Rocky and Michael, for your presentations, and thank you once again. And now we'll move on to, on our public presentation, we have, is Sarah and Brendan Gillen online? Who is? Sarah, are you there? Can you please?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep, state your name and address, please.
So my name is Brendan Gillen. I'm representing my wife and I, Sarah Gillen.
Yeah.
2312 Clifton Street. I just want to thank you guys for having us and hearing us out. I was actually quite happy to hear that some of my concerns were addressed. It's mainly parking and safety and the amount of people that will be coming into the neighborhood. I'm also interested in what the owner said about 60 cars being parked on the street for this archery range, because I've lived here for 4 or 5 years. I walk my dog every night between 4 and 8 o'clock, and I've never seen 60 cars parked on the road, so I want to object to that. Also, I have some concerns about the cooling systems. Mainly, I'm interested in what fluids and chemicals are in them, and also because they are quite close to those two waterways. So I was wondering if that's been considered. And yeah, really also just the parking. I don't really feel as though that will really be adequate, but I don't really know. I don't know what to expect, but I found it interesting that they belittled it as a commercial or private company or whatever you want to call it, because the little research I've done on 9-9 hockey is it is a high caliber private league. The parents pay big money, from what I've heard, $6,000 to $10,000 a year to take part. And I just want to make sure that everyone's aware of what's going into this small community, because there's not very many of them left. And I'm really concerned about the impact that it'll have on it. And also with the sidewalks, there's not much space. We're pushing maybe lane and a half, maybe 2 lanes in some spots. So to try and put the sidewalks in between the ditches, and I just don't see it. But again, that's my concerns. This is really my first meeting like that, so I'm sorry if I wasn't all that professional, but again, thank you very much for hearing me out.
Brendan, you did a great job, and I want to let you know that our planning staff duly notes all your comments. So is there any questions for Brendan? Okay, thank you, Brendan. On behalf of you and Sarah, I want to thank you for your presentation.
Thank you very much.
And up next now, I have Mike and Tim Peter. Are they both on?
Yes, we're here. Can you hear us?
Yeah, is it Tina?
It's Tina, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know why I got so it's Mike and Tina, correct?
That's correct.
Are you both going to present or just yourself?
Just myself. My husband is here with me. We are at 2324 Gaynor, so we are 2 houses over from the property in discussion.
Okay. Go ahead then. The floor is yours, Tina.
Thank you. Part of our concerns have already been addressed with the traffic, the noise. A lot of our privacy will be interrupted. The house and the garage that they're using face our backyard when that house was built. So it's directly facing anything that we do in the back. So with no privacy fence down their side, everybody that pulls in and out of there will of course see in our yard. And that's really a disruption to us. As far as the archery goes, they only ran archery for 2 to 3 months out of the year. It was not 2 months out of the year. It was not all year long. So it was very quiet, and it was only once or twice a week. It was not every day. So it was very manageable for archery. And there wasn't a lot of cars all the time. Do you have anything else you want to say? No. And yeah, I don't know. So that's pretty much it. I think you've addressed pretty much everything else. I'm glad to see that you've allowed us to attend this by Zoom, and that other people in the neighborhood are expressing concern as well. Thank you.
I want to thank you, Tina and Mike as well. And again, your comments are duly noted and will be addressed through the planning staff. But do we have any questions from council to Tina? Councillor Neal, go ahead.
Yes, Councillor.
Cannot hear you.
You're muted, Councillor Neal.
Yeah,
there you
we
go. You're good.
Tina, would a privacy fence help you out with the, I see the 2 lanes of roadway there, and if they put a privacy fence down, that would help?
If that's the only alternative, yes, that would help.
Thank you.
Okay, and I had Councillor DeRosa's hand up. Go ahead, Councillor DeRosa.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Tina and Mike, can you think of any benefits it might bring to your community, to your neighborhood?
No, I think the people that live out here or have moved here because it's a nice, quiet community. They're trying to raise families. There's a lot of children here now. I don't think they're looking to see any type of businesses really open up in the area. We have lived here for 25 years ourselves. It's a wonderful part of Thorold. There's never any issues really, and I don't see, but I don't play hockey, so I don't see any benefit to it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Seeing none, I want to thank you, Tina and Mike, for presenting, and I appreciate your bringing these concerns forward.
Thank you for having us.
And up next, I have Fred Reiger, if I'm pronouncing that right. Fred, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Did I pronounce your name correctly?
Regier.
Regier, okay. Fred, you're up next. State your name and address, please.
Great, thank you. My name is Fred Regier, and I own and reside at 1555 Henderson Street in Allenburg. It's about 150 meters from the 2350 Gaynor Street that we're speaking about. Thank you, Mayor and Council members, for allowing me to bring my questions and concerns this evening. My questions are relating to the proposal, actually that on Gaynor Street. These are the questions and thoughts I would like the council to consider before making a decision on this application. As I said, I live only 150 meters from the address in question, and I walk to the end of my driveway and look to the end of the street, and I can see the proposed building that they want to use. And I want to make sure that all has been considered and done to reduce the additional noise brought to the residential area with this new business. My first question, I guess, is this: what is the size of the rink mate chiller? And the second question is relating to it. Will there be more than one or possibly three of these chillers installed? And then, of course, I had the question answered already. The location of the chiller, I guess it's on that pad on the plan that the plan is indicating. And I've been doing a little bit of research on reducing noise, what to use, and I would propose, if this application goes through by council and mayor, I would propose sound barrier absorption walls. They are basically engineered acoustic insulated wall panels to be installed around machines such as chillers like this. And there's quite a number of different ways that different products out there that can reduce the noise. Personally, it's a very quiet neighborhood. I've lived here since with my family since 2002. And it's a great neighborhood, and I would love to keep any additional events or things happening in the area, keep the noise down as much as possible. And I believe these specialized sound barrier walls can help with that. Also, the other thing, I understand that parking. There are 15 parking spaces proposed, but has the operator or the owner or the council considered whether or how to keep the participants from parking on the road? Some people may just want to park on the road because it's just easier. And especially that corner on Henderson and Gaynor, right on the corner, you put one car there and it's a hazard. I take my bicycle to work every day. On the way to work and on the way back, I come around that corner, and if there's one car parked there, I'm veering off to the middle of the road, trying to keep from, either hitting the car or the person in the car accidentally opening their door. And by veering into the road, I have to look both ways around the corner. And anyway, you park any cars there, it's a hazard. And so that would be something to consider. Let me see, what else is there? And also about operating hours. I know that the city of Thorold has graciously given me a site-specific permit on this property many years ago now for my woodworking business, but with conditions. And the hours of operations were limited to 8 to 5 weekdays, 8 to 12 on Saturday and closed on Sunday. Now, I understand this training facility, those hours wouldn't work, but I would propose to at least keep the business from operating on the Sunday. Yeah, I think that's it. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you so much for your presentation, Fred, and raising those concerns. And now we'll open the floor for questions. I got Councillor DeRose.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Fred, what is the designated parking where you just described on the bend presently? Is parking allowed?
I believe it is. There aren't any parking signs posted.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions? I got Councillor Kenny. Go ahead, Councillor Kenny.
Within the proposal, they were proposing to use a limit of 10 players on the ice at one time. I think we should be looking at having at least 20 parking spots there, because if you got 10 kids on the ice, the following hour you're going to have 10 kids on the ice, and you need enough spaces for actually two groups, not one group. So I think the owners should take a look at either, if it's possible, to make the parking lot larger so that we keep cars off the street. That's just my opinion.
Thank you, Councillor. Anyone else? Seeing none, Fred, thank you again for your presentation.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else waiting to speak? Is there anyone else at this time? There's no one else? Okay. Closing remarks and closing of the meeting. This fulfills the requirements of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, CP 13, pursuant to sections 17, 22, and 34. Council will consider staff's recommendation report, which will subsequently considered by City Council at a future date. Please provide your contact information and indicate to the clerk at clerk@thorold.ca. That's clerk@thorold.ca if you wish to receive notice of Council's decision. Alternately, a letter requesting to receive notice of Council's decision may be sent to the City Clerk. As such, the public meeting portion of this application is now closed. Okay, and now we'll move on to motions of council support. I have a mover, Councillor Sentence, and seconder, Councillor Decker. And I'll ask Councillor Sentence to read the motion. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The resolution or motion is that the resolution passed by Council of the City of St. Catharines at its meeting of August 10th, 2020, supporting the City of Toronto in its legal challenge of the amendments made under Bill 184, Section 83, be received and supported.
Is there anyone that wants to speak to that? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. The next one is moved by Councillor Longo and seconded by Councillor Neal. And I'll get Councillor Longo to read that resolution. Go ahead, Councillor Longo.
Mr. Mayor, that the resolution passed by the Council of the City of Port Colborne at its meeting of January 27, 2020, endorsing Bill 164 regarding the need to regulate private supported living accommodations to protect individuals requiring special care, be received and supported.
Is there anyone that wants to speak to that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And we're going to go back to civic recognition because I've been told that Councillor DeRose has something that he wants to state, and I'll turn it over to Councillor DeRose. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you. I want to congratulate Concilia Lafrada. She turned 100 on August 15th. She was born in 1920. Consilia, back in Italy, had to take care and raise 6 of her own children and 4 grown-up children from her sister that had passed away early in life. She immigrated to Canada with her 4 children on June 22nd, 1971, residing at 41 Richmond. For those of you that knew her, you'd see her sitting on her porch with a smile on her face, one of the most pleasant people you'll ever meet. She lived at Cobblestone for 4 years, but unfortunately now she's in the Falls at Oakwood Lodge. And devoted Catholic, hard worker. Her family was her #1 priority. And I just want to commend the LaFrada family. Since they came from Italy, the contributions they've made to the Thorold community and made us a better place. Outstanding family, and happy belated birthday, Consilia. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And thank you for raising that, Councillor DeRose. And just so you know, we did present a certificate of recognition recognizing her 100th birthday that the family picked up here and presented.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, and now we're going to move on to motion to receive and file minutes or adopt recommendations of council, committees, or boards. Minutes to review for information purposes. I have a mover, Councillor Kenny, and seconder, Councillor Neal, that council receive and file the minutes of the committees of council local boards as presented. Is there anyone that wants to speak to any of those? I got Councillor Neal. Go ahead, Councillor.
Just one thing on the Heritage Committee is that they put through a motion to hire a historian for the 235 St. David's Road property. And that particular report will be coming back to council sometime near the end of September.
Thank you, Councillor Neal. Anyone else? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Minutes to endorse recommendations, Planning and Development Services Public Committee meeting form. I have a mover, and she's running late, so I'll have to get, I'll have Councillor Sentence move it. I need a seconder. Can I get a seconder? I got Councillor DeRose. That council adopt the recommendations contained within the minutes of the Planning and Development Services Public Forum Committee meeting of August 11th, 2020. Does anyone want to speak to that? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Public Works and Committee Services Public Forum. I have a mover, Councillor Neal, and a seconder, Councillor Kenny, that council adopt the recommendations obtained within the minutes of the Public Works and Community Services Public Forum Committee meeting of August 18th, 2020. Does anyone want to speak to that? Go ahead, Councillor Neal.
Yeah, just a couple of comments in regarding the recommendations is that Councillor Kenny will be asking the Nonprofit Housing Corporation for 2 parking spaces for a short period of time. And we will be coming back with a budget overrun in the near future regarding a sidewalk move. And I think that's about it.
Okay, Councillor Neal. Anyone else? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Statement by councillors. I have one statement tonight, and it's Councillor DeRose on rodent control on properties being developed. And Councillor DeRose, it's all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Mr. Mayor. We've discussed this before, you and I, about the rodent problem in Thorold, and we've tried to get residents to be proactive and go to the city website, the region website. But apparently, I've been getting calls lately about some huge rodents, and the only thing that comes to mind is, it is my understanding that we have some kind of agreement with builders and developers to proactively deal with the rodents that they're displacing. So I'd like to know from staff, if it can be in a report, how are they monitoring this? And is there a more efficient way to be more efficient and accurate? Because I would think some of this displacement from this development, I think the rodents aren't, this is my opinion, of course, but I don't think the rodents are getting dealt with at the beginning of the project. And I think this is spreading to the whole community. I've been getting more and more calls about it. and you can tell them to go to the website, but this is something out of their control. And you know, they're saying they're being proactive. They've cleaned up. There's no food outside. There's no old broken down sheds or anything. So just can I get staff's advice on if I should ask for, or I can ask for a report, or if they can answer it now, how they're monitoring developers dealing with rodents? Thank you.
Is Jason on? Okay, I'll, just so for what I understand about it, there is only for demolition that they have to do control, not if it's an open field and they develop it. It's only if they're demolishing a building on the property, then they have to put the rodent control in place before the demolishing. Am I correct? Can I get someone from staff? Is Jason on tonight?
Mr. Mayor, this is Jason. I'm here.
Yeah, go ahead. Our chief building official, Jason Simpson. Go ahead, Jason.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So through the mayor to Councillor DeRose, mayor is correct. Right now, our only provisions are for rodent mitigation when a demolition is proposed, but there isn't anything in place for when new development is proposed. If that is something that council desires, then I think a report from staff is probably the recommended route, so that the planning department and engineering department and myself can discuss it and try and provide some information back to council.
So, Councillor DeRose, would you like to get a staff report on that?
Yes, and Jason, thank you for your answer. And is it possible to look at if there's something in place in other communities where just an open field might have to get looked at? Because we all know this, since all the development in Thorold, since Confederation Heights, that's when it displaced so much wildlife, and that was a problem. But the rodent problem is just, it's out of control in some parts of Thorold, to the point where people have left town. So I appreciate if you would come up with a report. That would be great. Thank you.
So Jason, so we got I need a seconder for that staff report. Can I get a seconder, Councillor Sentence? Anyone else want to speak to that? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Okay, now we're going to move on to delegations to report. I have Kelly Martell and Dana Anderson of MHBC Planning Limited regarding Planning and Development Report PDS 2020-41. And are they with us now? So I'd like to get Kelly and Dana, please, to present.
Good evening. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, hi. I am here solo today. It's just me from MHBC, Kelly. I am going to share my screen and then I'll start with the presentation. I'm hoping to just keep this brief, and then pending the protocols, if we open it up to questions now, if you have any, or we wait till the formal report, I'll leave that to the clerk. But
well, what I'll do is once you make the presentation, I'll get a motion to move that report forward, and then we'll do it right away.
Okay.
Okay.
Perfect. So I'm going to start sharing my screen now.
Yeah. I think I can see it.
Okay, perfect. Okay, great. So, good evening, Mayor and members of council. It's lovely to see you all again on the screen. As you know, we've been working with the city for about a year now to finalize the neighborhood plans and the policy update to the Port Robinson West secondary plan. And really the purpose of tonight's meeting is to review and present to you the final recommended official plan amendment for adoption, and the Neighborhood 1 Land Use and Parks and Open Space Plan for endorsement. So just quickly, there's a few things we're going to cover in a short amount of time today. I'm going to provide a quick overview of the project background, where we've been, discuss the consultation and feedback we've received during the consultation period, as well as review the changes made since the public meeting, which we had earlier in July, and then review quickly with you the recommended official plan amendment for adoption and the Neighborhood 1 plan for endorsement. So to recap, we're looking at the Port Robinson West Phase 1 lands, which are the lands here on the screen that comprise Neighborhood 1, Neighborhood 2, Neighborhood 5, and the open space. And all of these lands were added to the urban area in 1999 to accommodate the future urban residential and employment growth in the city. There are 5 residential neighborhoods in the area, and there's policy direction in the secondary plan, which requires that neighborhood plans be prepared and submitted prior to development. So as noted previously, we've been retained by the city, so we're working with the city on this, and we have been working closely over the last year or so to bring the project to a close. We've set it out in 3 phases, with each phase building upon the previous phase, to arrive at the recommended policy updates to the secondary plan as well as the neighborhood plans. So this involved background information collection and analysis, development of the plan, and then public consultation. And throughout the process, we were involved with members of the technical advisory committee comprised of representatives from the region, from the NPCA, as well as the city of Welland. And then we also engaged with landowners and stakeholders in the area throughout the process. So as I said, we have endeavored to engage with and obtain input from a variety of stakeholders, agencies, residents, landowners, and council through a variety of methods. I believe we provided council with an update in December, and then we came back again in January or July for the public meeting. As well, we've had the technical advisory committee, we had the virtual open house, advertisements through Facebook and the city's webpage. And essentially this slide, it kind of shows the key milestones representing consultation on these items to date. So you'll recall that we last presented information to you in July of this year as part of the statutory public meeting for the official plan amendment. Based on comments received at that meeting, as well as written comments received throughout the process, we did make some revisions to the official plan amendments, which is before you today, and the details of that are highlighted in the staff report and the memo and the agenda package. And we also did determine that the Neighborhood 2 plan should be held back pending the outcome of the region and the NPCA's review of the environmental work. So that piece will be coming to you at a later date. So what's before you tonight is the official plan amendment and the Neighborhood 1 plans. And then Neighborhood 2 will come later. So we did make 6 revisions to the official plan amendment, which are highlighted on this slide, as well as described in the memorandum and the staff report appended to the agenda. Most of them were minor in nature, relating to correcting typos, clarifying what's permitted in terms of underground parking, refining this permission for accessory retail uses. There were some concerns with requiring a full market needs assessment. So instead we switched to a cap of 500 square meters. We changed some wording related to requests from Bell Canada. As well, we did receive comments from the City of Welland and from IBI Consulting on 2 matters. We worked through revisions to address Welland's comments with respect to a parcel of land close to their boundary, really to address cross-jurisdictional issues and allow for clarifying and defining the process under which they develop as part of the Northern Reach development in Welland. And we did revise the urban commercial designation to allow for consideration of increased height but not density, subject to an impact study, which was a policy that already existed in the secondary plan. We just carried it over to be inclusive of the entire commercial area designation as opposed to one component of it. So that is the highlight of the changes to the official plan amendment since we last presented to you. There were as well one small change to the neighborhood 1 plan. It was just mislabeled in the legend on the previous presentation, and we have corrected that so it's appropriately labeled and shown to correspond with the secondary plan designation. And again, as noted, the neighborhood 2 plan will come forward at a later date for endorsement. So what is being shown on this slide for you today is the final neighborhood 1 land use plan that's recommended for endorsement. And I'm just highlighting here in the red circle on the legend and on the map, the change that was made. So this parcel is identified as urban commercial. That's how it's designated in the plan, but the previous version didn't have the urban commercial designation on the legend, so we just fixed that and clearly indicated its appropriate designation. And again, here is the Parks and Open Space Plan, which is recommended for endorsement, and there have been no changes to this since we last presented it to you in July. So quickly to summarize, the neighborhood 1 plans, the recommendation tonight is for endorsement. These are not statutory documents. Again, the neighborhood 2 plan will be brought forward for endorsement at a later date. I understand that the region and the NPCI are getting close to finishing their EIS review, and really the reason for holding this back was to ensure that the boundaries could be properly delineated in terms of the environmental features. Again, the official plan amendment has been revised to address those comments made through the consultation period, which were minor in nature. And what the recommendation tonight is to adopt that official plan amendment. Again, schedules A5 and A6 to the secondary plan are what would be considered the operative policy documents. So those neighborhood plans, this neighborhood 1 plan, which we just presented, are intended to guide staff as they receive development applications in their assessment moving forward. But the Schedule A5 and A6 of the secondary plan are not being changed, and those are the statutory documents. And following endorsement of the neighborhood plans and approval of the official plan amendment, landowners will be able to make development applications for lands within these areas and or continue the process. So we know Empire Communities submitted an application, I think maybe a couple weeks ago now, knowing that we are close to this process. So now, following adoption and endorsement, they'll be able to continue through that process. And I think that is where I'll leave it today. I know it's a lot of information, and we had provided quite a lengthy presentation last time we were here. So if there are any questions, I'm open to them, but I'll leave it to the clerk and council to determine the process, whether it's questions now or later.
Thank you, Kelly. We'll take questions now. I'll open the floor up to any councillors that have any questions for Kelly. Do I have any questions? Do we have any questions? I see no questions, Kelly. You must have made a thorough presentation.
Thank you so much.
So I'm on a motion. I need a mover and a seconder to bring forward PDS 2020-41. Can I have a mover? I got Councillor Sentence and a seconder, Councillor Neal, to move forward PDS 2020-41. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. So now we'll deal with that. This is out of discussion report 16D. PDS 2020-41. I have a mover, Councillor Kenny. I need a seconder because Councillor Wilson isn't here. I got Councillor DeRose. That council endorsed the Port Robinson West Phase 1 Neighborhood 1 Plan and Open Space Plan attached in Appendix 1. 2. That council endorsed the Port Robinson West Architectural Design Guidelines attached in Appendix 1. 3. That council adopt and approve the official plan amendment for the Port Robinson West Secondary Plan attached in Appendix 1. 4. That council waive the need to hold another statutory public meeting under the Planning Act as staff and MHBC have deemed the changes made under the official plan amendment as outlined in Appendix 1 as minor. 5, that the bylaw to implement the official plan amendment be forwarded to council for approval. And that is before you. Are there any questions relating to this report? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And again, Kelly, thank you. So now we're going to move back to consent reports, and I have a mover, Councillor DeRose, and a seconder, Councillor Longo, that council approve the following consent reports. And I want to first, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 reports. CAO 2020-05, DF 2020-26, CC 2020-39, PWCS 2020-32, and PDS 2020-36. Are we taking them all together, or does anyone want to pull a report? I see Councillor Neal. Go ahead. What one do you want to pull? You're muted, Councillor Neal.
Okay, try that again. CC 2020-39, there are two reports that I like to pull on that particular item.
Okay, so we'll go back to that one. Anyone else? Okay, so we're going to take CAO 2020-05, DF 2020-26, PWCS 2020-32, and PWS 2020-36. And we had the mover, Councillor DeRose, and seconder, Councillor Longo. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. So now we'll go back to CC 2020-39. Again, I got a mover, Councillor DeRose, and a seconder, Councillor Longo. But I have Councillor Neal up to speak to that report. And that's that council receive and file the items listed on the city clerk's report. CC 2020-39, and you wanted to speak to a couple, so go ahead, Councillor Neal.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Item, the City of St. Catharines Long-Term Care Resolution. I would like to move that we support that resolution so that we have it on record as supporting the long-term care. We've been fighting for long-term care for a long time in Thorold, and that will be part of making sure that the people that live in the long-term care facilities are looked after.
So you want to endorse that one from the city of St. Catharines, correct?
That's correct.
And you're gonna move that? I need a seconder for that one. I got Councillor DeRose, and does anyone want to speak to that one? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, carried. Okay, and you had one other one you wanted to.
Yeah, the resolution from Port Colborne from the Township South Glengarry, again, long-term care, and I'd like to move that we support that particular resolution also.
So long-term care resolution from the city of Port Colborne, you're gonna move that as well, and I need a seconder on that one. Councillor Sentence. And anyone want to speak to that particular one? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, carried. So now we have the rest of the report. You're good now, Councillor Neal?
That's good.
So the rest of it, I had to mover Councillor DeRose, seconder Councillor Longo. All those in favor? Opposed, carried. Okay. Now we're going to move back to discussion reports. And up first, I have PWCS 2020-45. I got Councillor Decker as a seconder. I need a mover because Councillor Wilson isn't here. I got Councillor Neal.
I'll move that.
Okay. And I'll turn this over to our Director of Community Service, Public Works and Community Services. Is he here?
Yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can. Go ahead.
Great, thank you. The recommendation is that council be informed of a safety repair completed on the staircase at Kiefer Mansion in the amount of $3,100, HST excluded, be funded as a general budget overrun.
Okay, so we had the mover, Councillor Neal, seconder, Councillor Decker. Did anyone want to speak to that? Go ahead, Councillor Kenny.
Just a question. How much longer is this agreement with the Kiefer Mansion? That we have to upkeep it?
I don't have the answer to that question, perhaps.
Okay.
I'll
Sorry.
turn that over to our CAO if he wants a comment.
Through Mr. Mayor, I don't know the date. I think it's still number of years. Yeah, we'll get back to you.
Okay,
Yeah,
he'll get back to you. Go ahead, Councillor DeRose.
For you, Mr. Mayor, I don't want to overstep staff. I thought it was to 2030, but I may be wrong.
Okay.
Through Mr. Mayor, the number 2033 comes to my mind, but I'm not sure.
Anyway, he'll verify that. Okay. Anything else, Councillor Kenny?
No.
Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. I got PDS 2020-39. A mover, Councillor Sentence, seconder, Councillor DeRose. And I'll turn this over to our acting Director of Planning, Richard. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The recommendation is that the Director of Planning and Development Services report, PDS 220-39, be approved as presented, and that the extension of temporary use bylaws policy be approved by Council, and that the delegation bylaw be updated and presented to Council for approval to include the delegation of extension of temporary use bylaws as outlined in the extension of temporary use bylaws policy.
Okay, and like I said, it's Councillor Sentence, the mover, Councillor DeRose, seconder. Does anyone have any questions for Richard? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. I have PDS 2020-40, a mover, Councillor Neal, seconder, Councillor Longo, and again, I'll turn this over to our Acting Director of Planning. Richard, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. The recommendation is that the Director of Planning and Development Services report, PDS 220-40, be approved as presented, and that the naming municipal streets policy be approved by Council, and that policy 600-04B, municipal naming policy, have those portions of the text that discuss the naming of municipal streets be rescinded by Council.
Is there any questions? Go ahead, Councillor DeRose.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Richard, I have a problem with, I'm reading the report, which was well written. On page 2, number 2 of the 12-page report, it says names that are already in use within this. So street names that exhibit the following elements will not be considered. Names that are already in use within the city of Thorold. So here's my question, Richard. How do we go about fixing this? There's a Hansler Street, which, well, there isn't, because I thought I lived on Hansler Street, but it's actually Hansler Drive. I almost didn't get my application in for council because I wrote down the wrong address, not knowing it was Drive. There's Hansler Road out that goes between Beaver Dams and Highway 20. There's Hansler Heights now. So is there, like, is this an improvement over what we were doing before? Because I don't know how this was an oversight over the years, but it's very confusing. People come visit me, friends from the US or whatever, from far away. They punch it in and they end up at the other Hansler. So it's very, very confusing. And I'm sure other people would have confusion. I hope the fire department wouldn't, but can you address this in any way? Is this report that you guys wrote up, is it an improvement from previous? What is the major things that are different? Because I haven't seen the previous one. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor DeRose. Through you, Mr. Mayor. This is an updated policy for relating to naming of municipal streets. Council requested that we look at it back earlier this year, and we've managed to review the policy that we had, as well as other policies from other municipalities, and this seemed to be a way that we could improve the naming process. We're proposing a committee to help us with that, that would help us address the names and make sure that it fits the community as well as the character in which that we're in, where the subdivision is in. The intent is that this would be an improvement to the policy, and we would be looking forward to implementing this policy if approved by council.
Okay, Councillor DeRose.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Richard, would it be possible to review situations like this where there's actually 3 streets with the same name? Is it possible to go back? I know you're saying going forward and coming up with
through you,
names that'll
through you, Your Worship.
But is it
yes, there is a component to this policy that allows for renaming of streets, and it's a fairly robust process because we want to make sure that we have an opportunity to inform the residents that live on the road so that they can be appropriately cognizant of what's happening to their street address.
Thank you, Richard.
Councillor Kenny, go ahead.
Yeah, I think the problem that Councillor DeRose is talking about might be go all the way back to when Thorold was a township and a town, a township, and Thorold South, and that's how the same names got brought into the different wards as they were or whatever. But I could see that we should probably try and straighten stuff like that out.
Okay, any further questions? Seeing none, I want to say I really like this report, and the one thing that I really like, because I've had many residents ask me about how we name streets, and they want to put some input in. So having a committee where we get public input and really take into consideration, like you said, the geographic location, where in the city it is, I think this is a huge step forward, and I want to thank you for this robust report. So.
Thank you, Your Worship. I want to thank Julie Hanna for her work on that. She's done a great job.
Thank you. So, okay, we got a mover, Councillor Neal, seconder, Councillor Longo. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, any notices of motion? Seeing none, before we move into closed meeting, we're going to pass, we're going to do bylaws other than bylaw 130-2020, which we have to wait till after the closed session to pass. So we're going to move to pass bylaw 118-2020, 126-2020, 127-2020, and 128-2020. So I have a mover, Councillor Longo, And seconder, Councillor Sentence, that leave be given to introduce the following bylaws. As I mentioned, bylaw 118, 2020, 126, 2020, 127, 2020, and 128, 2020, and that they same now be read a first time. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Final reading of those bylaws. Mover, Councillor Decker. Seconder, Councillor DeRose, that the bylaws just read a first time be read a second and third time and do pass, and that the mayor and clerk do sign and seal the same. Any rule of this council to the contrary notwithstanding. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. So now, before we move into closed session, I will read the following. Okay. In accordance with Section 239 of the Municipal Act, a meeting or part of a meeting may be closed to the public if the subject matter being considered is related to information explicitly supplied in confidence to the municipality by Canada or the province. Personnel matters about identifiable individuals, including local boards. Advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, and proposed disposition of land by the municipality. Could I have a motion to move into closed section to discuss what? Go ahead, Councillor Longo. Do you want to move the motion?
Yes.
Okay, and I need a seconder. Councillor Decker. Okay, and before we vote on that, these are the items, so I read these now. Okay, the mayor's verbal report on a grant application, information explicitly supplied in conference to the municipality by Canada or province. I have the one I mentioned that we added to the agenda, which was the memorandum of understanding. Which regards property matter. The city clerk's verbal report on the Thorold Municipal Nonprofit Housing Board. The city clerk's verbal report on a vacancy to the Thorold Municipal Non-Housing Board. The chief administration officer's verbal report, interpretation of bylaw number 28, 2008. Chief Administration Officer's verbal report, re 47 Front Street North, and Chief Administration Officer's verbal report on a personnel matter. And I had a mover, Councillor Longo, and who was seconder again? Councillor Decker. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. We will now move into closed session. So now you know you have to log out and then log back in under the closed session Zoom.